Hello chess lovers, welcome to the new video. So we continue the coverage of Grand Chess Tour Paris, and in this video we will look at the game between Ian Nepomnichtchi, the challenger of the world champion in this winter. It should happen, and his opponent is Etienne Bacrot, who played a really good game in the previous round. So let's look how the challenger plays. So Nepo is white and Bacrot is black. We have a Sicilian, and after knight f3, d6, this is an invitation to Najdorf defense, but Nepo decides not to go for the open Sicilian, but instead gives this check on b5. And now when players want a sharp fight, they usually go with knight d7, but with his next move it is clear that Bacrot wanted a somewhat more quiet position. So we have an exchange, queen d7, and now many players here go for some sort of Maroczy bind like this, where these two pawns are giving white a good stronghold in the center, but black can hope for some counter play, especially with moves like b5 or d5 later on. Alright, Nepo didn't choose this. He decides to go for castle, and after knight f6, rook e1. So why rook e1? You don't want to defend the e4 pawn with the c3 knight, with the knight on c3, because in this variation you want to support a center build-up. So if you put your knight here, that will be almost impossible to do. So rook e1 is the move, knight c6, and as we mentioned, we have c3. So obviously white intends d4. e6 was played to allow this bishop to be developed, and white continues with his plan. And here black could play d5, but he chose to take first, so he took on d4, although this could transpose into the same position anyway. And now d5. And here it's important not to take, because if you take, black can just recapture with the knight, and white has an isolated pawn, and there is no light square bishop, so the chances of some kind of kingside attack or some threats along this diagonal are very slim. So not the best option probably to go into isolated pawn position. So that's why white pushes, basically the only sensible move. Black jumped in, and now a decent move, developing the knight and offering to trade off black's most active piece. Black obliged, and after knight d2, bishop d2, he played a somewhat mysterious move a5. So what's a5 all about? The thing is, there is no attack on the king side yet, so black can use this feature of the position to gain some space on the queen side, because that's where he will be playing. So well, we shall see how that will turn out. So white takes the open file, but not so to do some damage along this file, but instead he will most likely use the c file for a rook lift and to transfer this rook into the attack. Of course, if it's possible to take advantage of the c file, white will do it, but most probably the rook will end up on the king side. Okay, a4, another queenside expansion move, because there are still no threats. And now white stops black's expansion. He said enough is enough, and black develops bishop e7, and now h4. So this pawn chain points toward the king side, which means that that is most likely where white will play. And now with the move h2 h4, white prepares some sort of attack on the king side. For this reason, it would be advised for black to prolong his castling, not to give white a clear object of attack. For example, h6 and let's say queen c2. Black can even afford a move like queen d8, transfer the queen to b6 and start putting pressure on the queen side. But he chose to castle. Not necessarily bad, but right now, when the black king has settled, white has a clear object. So the object here is to attack black's king. And the most logical way to do is by starting a rook lift. So, as I mentioned before, this rook has some aggressive intentions along the third rank. Black plays rook fc8, and now he's ready to maybe trade a pair of rooks after removing this knight and continue his operations on the queen side. So that's why Nepo plays a very interesting, mysterious move, rook d3. So this move just says to black, we are not going to trade this pair of rooks. It's not going to happen. Okay, you can have the c file, that's true, but for now all the entry squares are well covered, except for this one, but that can be tolerated, I guess. So rook d3, just avoiding any trades, and black continues with his queenside plan. If he would be able to open up a file and then gain some entry squares, that would be really nice for him. So white is not just gonna sit and watch, so he goes for knight g5. And this move, although it looks like nothing is happening, it's a really dangerous move. Let's say black ignores it and continues with his queenside plan, then the game would end very quickly. Now 2 points are attacked by this queen, so the only way to defend that is by trading off on g5, but now after h takes g5, the h file opens up, so this means that this move will come with decisive force, and this position is, believe it or not, lost for black. So that's why he cannot go here. He first has to do something about the g5 knight, and he does so. So he plays h6, and knight retreats. Now you cannot really capture this pawn, because after queen g4, bishop is attacked, and there is a pin here, which means that this bishop will come with decisive force. That's why black didn't capture here, but instead moved his king. So now this might be a threat in the future. Not really yet, but it might be in the future. So white goes for activating his queen. So now already we can see it's not really too dangerous, but in the future it might be. So for example, this is a tender spot after a move like this, so it would only make sense to do some prophylaxis and put the bishop on f8, cover that, allow the queen to defend along the 7th rank, and this would be a balanced position. But for some reason Bacrot goes nuts here, so he plays f5. Terrible move, making a bunch of holes in his position, and also this pawn is weak in some variations. And of course white is not going to take, he's just going to go queen g6, and now we can see that this spot is weak. The queen is not easy to chase away, and in the game black took on h4, but let's see if he now plays bishop f8. So it looks like everything is under control. Queen covers the g7 spot, the pawn is defended. But watch this, after knight f4, there is an attack here, and let's say after rook e8, white just switches plans. He goes rook c1 with his next move, if possible. He takes the c file, and actually, if you turn on your computer, you will see that this position is completely busted because this queen cannot be chased away. This pawn is under constant pressure, and now it makes sense to use the c file. If this pawn was back, then it would make a stronghold here, so it would not be as bad, but with the pawn already advanced, the c file would be decisive. Note that you can never go here, because then the rook doesn't defend this pawn anymore, so white can just take it. Alright, so you see already normal moves cannot prevent a disaster. So black decided to capture a pawn, and this way the queen joins the defense, but it's too late. So queen h5, attacking the bishop retreated, and now bam, bishop h6. This has to be taken because otherwise a discovered check would follow, or rook g3. So any of these ideas would be devastating. So bishop was taken, and now even queen h6 is winning. I mean, this is a typical position where you have many pawns for the piece, and more pawns will drop in the process, and attack is still going on. But white chose a faster and more elegant solution. So he just played rook g3 with unstoppable rook g6, rook h6 threat. So black here actually resigned. Let's see, if queen h7, rook g6, and this is unstoppable. Note that bishop g5 doesn't really help. White can just take it, and that would be the end. Alright, so this was the game in which the young gun beat the older guy, and a very impressive victory by Nepo from a position that looked fairly balanced, but all it took was one imprecise move, that is f7, f5, and then Nepo finished the game with computer accuracy. If you liked the video, please subscribe, share, and comment below if you have any questions or other observations. Thank you for watching, and see you again. Bye!